Ha 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 ha. Laughing. Hello, Brubs. We're back with The World of Keane, written by Walter Keane, the purported author or artist who drew all the big eyes paintings, but it was later determined that his wife Margaret did, but who knows what the real story is. Some weird shit going on between those two. God damn, why can't I do this? There we go. Chapter 9. Select playlist. What is the playlist, bruv? The World of Keane. Done. Add a photo. Change the photo. What is the photo? There it is. There's the photo. Save it. Laughing. Ha 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 ha. Alright, so it's just going to hold up on me. There we go. We finally uploaded it. Let's get to this. Make sure the audio and video is good. Looks superb. Though I don't hear anything. I hear nothing. Looks superb. There it is. Though I don't hear anything. I hear nothing. Looks superb. There it is. There it is, bruv. There it is, bruv. All right. We're set to go here. The World of Keane by Walter Keane. 32 paintings and drawings, plus his autobiography. Chapter 9. Tahiti by way of Japan and Hong Kong. Now that Mei Ling was settled into her business venture, I made reservations to fly to Tahiti. On one of our last evenings together in Hong Kong, we met three noisy Swedes in the pub. They were from Malmo, Sweden, and knew my cousin, Sven Clausen, who is also an artist. Lars, captain of a large sailboat, had sailed many times with Sven in the North Sea. As the evening continued and the whiskey flowed, Lars and I began talking about his itinerary. He said his next port of call would be Tahiti. Of course it is. Anticipating the relaxation of a cruise with ample time for my work, I asked Lars if he would take me on to Tahiti as a paying passers-by. What the hell would you call it? A passers-by? Is that a passenger? Just as long as you know that we only drink and love when we are at sea. Oh no. We have two gorgeous Swedish girls, Olga and Gretchen, with us, and one Danish woman, Dana. Looking at Mei Ling beside me, I answered, I'll be too busy painting to have time for women. Lars said in 3 days we sailed. Thursday morning at 6 a.m. be there. Mei Ling said, I'll deliver Walter to the boat at 5 minutes of 6, and he won't need a woman. For some days to come, I'll make sure of that. Returning to our apartment, Mei Ling said, Walter, are you sure you want to go on that boat? The crew looks in no condition to navigate or sail a boat. Whether you know it or not, boats often vanish at sea with no survivors. I assured Mei Ling Lars made it here from Sweden, and the North Sea can be a bit rough at times. He is an experienced seaman. The next 72 hours were total happiness. We were never apart, from our tub to our bed to our tub again. All meals except breakfast we had out. We walked for miles holding hands, skipping and singing. We had dinner with my newspaper friend Charlie. Our last night before my sailing, we spent 3 hours over a 15-course dinner. We waved good night to Charlie and started walking home. Stopping at a bench near the water, Mei Ling took my hand in hers, looked into my eyes, and said, "Please take me to Tahiti with you." She had already made inquiry and discovered she didn't need a visa to go ashore from a visiting foreign boat. I held her close to me, whispering gently, lovingly, "My darling, your new life is your store." She replied, "Long hours, full of customers, yes, but my life will be empty without you." We walked hand in hand to our apartment. I called to Mei Ling to please set the alarm for 5 a.m. "What do you got, bruv?" She replied, "No alarm needs to be set this night. What's left of it is for love." In the gray blue of dawn, following a tearful farewell with Mei Ling, I boarded Lars' schooner and tried to get settled in the reduced quarters. Lars had instructed Dana to look after me, which she did even before we set sail. Introducing herself to me, she explained, "I'm working my way around the world on this boat. So, Walter, if I may call you by your first name, I'll take care of your cabin, bring you drinks, coffee, or whatever you like. In case of an unexpected emergency, there are 4 small lifeboats, 2 passengers to a boat. Lars assigned you and me to this one." With that, she indicated the designated boat and also showed me where the life jackets were kept. I paid minimal attention to this information because I was emotionally exhausted from the past few days in Hong Kong. Excusing myself, I told Dana that I must get some rest. For the first 3 days at sea, I remained in my cabin except to eat meals. Mei Ling's absence had left a real void in my life. I was struck with the thought that she and Colette were similar in many respects, both so giving, affectionate, and flexible. However, the two of them were survivors in every sense of the world. He says world, but it should be word. Incredibly, neither had become harsh, hardened, or callous toward the rest of the world, which had dealt them so many blows. I concluded that they both had real character, and that I was truly fortunate to have known and loved them and been loved by them. I still held hope of joining Colette and Renee in France once again. On the third night of our voyage, I was doing some drawings and laying out some paintings when there was a knock at my door. It was past midnight. Opening the door, I found an obviously upset Dana standing in the rain with her hair blowing. "May I come in?" she asked. Your light was on. "Please do." I reached for a towel to dry her and a comb for her hair. "The only thing I have to offer you is a couple of warm beers." "Thanks, but I'll wait until later," she said. "Right now I need to dry off and talk to someone." All of the crew are very drunk in the lounge. They are having a real bash and unaware that a heavy fog is rolling in. Dana's eyes were intense. She was clearly frightened. Dana said, "Walter, in 3 days I have been in your cabin 11 times, making up your room, bringing you coffee or a whiskey. Sometimes you haven't acknowledged my presence, not even looking up from your work. You've never flirted with me. Tonight I've been here 2 hours, and all we have done is have a warm beer and a little friendly talk." She asked, "Don't you like me?" Those damn drunks in the lounge were pawing me, and one shouted, "Dana, I crave you." That did it. I left. "Walter, do you crave me?" I must confess, I haven't thought of it. However, I feel sometimes that craving is a lust we all share. Then another time, that desire for a woman is merely a substitute for creating a painting. Dana, you are charming, warm, and a real knockout. I do like you. I like how it's. I do like you. Great topography. "Walter, I'm restless. Please put your arms around me." I responded, "Let's go on the deck where you can walk it off." She commented, It's very cold and foggy. Let's take a look, then bundle up." It's damn cold and windy out there. Although I had known that the ocean was too rough for painting that evening, I did not realize the severity of the weather until we left my cabin. The deck was wet and slippery from the waves splashing upon it. The wind was blowing furiously, and a heavy fog made visibility almost zero. As Dana and I walked to the aft section of the boat, we put our arms around each other's waists for balance. Then suddenly Dana screamed, "What is that?" Looming above us was a large freighter. There was a crash. I hit the siding, striking my head and right shoulder before falling to the deck unconscious. Dana later told me she had shrugged to put a life jacket on me. She dropped the lifeboat into the raging sea, tightly holding the connecting rope so as not to lose it. She then lifted me and jumped into the water, holding me as we splashed under and resurfaced. Still gripping the rope, Dana soon had us in the boat. She couldn't see anything except the fire in the distance, which soon faded away. Dana had been schooled by Lars in case of just an emergency. Our little boat had minor provisions: first aid kit, 2 blankets, and some flares. She removed the wet clothes from my shivering body and wrapped me in a blanket. She took off her own wet clothes and wrapped herself in the second blanket, placing her body close to mine to keep me warm. The next day dawned sunny. Dana dried our clothing and dressed me. She saw no sign of our boat. The second night we were rescued by a Japanese fishing boat on its return trip to Japan. Its crew had seen Dana's second flare. She told them that we were Swedes, man and wife from the Swedish boat that had probably sunk. She asked the crew members if they knew of any other survivors from our boat. They didn't understand a word she spoke. However, they did provide us with a bed for two. I was still unconscious and running a high fever. Dana never left my side. She told them again that we were Swedes. We look like Swedes, both tall, blonde hair, blue eyes. Most important for us, Sweden had been neutral in the war. There was no doctor on the fishing boat, however, to Dana's surprise. There were many Japanese fisher women aboard. They came to my bed and massaged me, helping my circulation, and fed me exclusively on fish soup and rice. We were days getting to port. The captain was a very kind man by the name of Yuki Tanaka. He and his wife, Toruyo, was a nurse and would take care of me when we arrived at his home. Dana and I became house guests in the Yuki home. They gave up their own large family bed for us to sleep in. 6 days after the accident, I regained consciousness. I became aware of seeing, feeling, and touching again. I felt a warm body close to mine. Turning, I was surprised to find myself looking into Dana's large blue eyes. "How did you get into my bed? Don't you remember anything?" "About what?" She related the story of the mishap at sea and our rescue. I vaguely recalled being on the deck in a heavy fog, but that was all. "Why are we in bed together?" Dana pressed her warm and tender body against mine and kissed me. She answered, "I am Dana Johnson. You are Walter Johnson. I am your wife." I asked, "Are we on our honeymoon?" She responded, "Better than that, especially for you. It's been a miracle. You were near death when Yuki found us. He brought us here. His wife is your nurse. With her help, we nursed you back to health from your bout with pneumonia and a concussion." Dana continued to caress my body. "No doubt about it, you're alive all over. But Dana, quiet, Walter. A man needs someone to love." At last dawn came, faint and disturbed, glimmering upon our locked bodies. The thought flashed through my mind. Sometimes I feel as though I were surrounded by beautiful goddesses. After the morning tea, Dana and I talked. With the name Johnson, my mother's maiden name, no one could ever locate us or know that we had arrived, I mused. If the boat went down, only Mia Ling, or Mai Ling, would know about it. Should it appear in the newspaper and she doesn't read the papers? Of course, if any word got back, Charlie would know of it. He would undoubtedly tell Mai Ling of the sinking. Neither would know I was using the name Johnson. She kept me in bed 3 more days. During this time, the Yuki's little girl, Noriko, would hold my hand and stroke my long, narrow fingers and my long toes. When I stood up, I was a foot taller than her parents. The neighbors came in to look us over. Until then, they had only heard rumors about the tall, strange, blonde, and blue eyed Swedes. He told her that Mr. Yuki's parents had been killed in Nagasaki when the Americans dropped the bomb. He explained that the Yuki family hated Americans. Later, Dana told me that Noriko said to Taro that I was a giant. She was a lovely and quietly sensitive little girl with black hair and large dark eyes. I did a drawing of her using some Japanese work. She gave me a hug and a broad smile accompanied by a rush of foreign words, punctuated with a clear emotion of gratitude. I was a full foot taller than she. The weird part is that no one knew that he didn't speak Swedish. As neither Dana nor I had money, we had to use our only resources. I was still wearing my Patek Philippe watch, which miraculously continued to work after accident. Dana still had a gold ring with some valuable stones. With the help of our Japanese friends, we sold our jewelry in a nearby village. We then purchased tickets to Hong Kong. Before our departure, the Yuki family hosted a little dinner party in our honor. On the afternoon of the festivities, I did a second drawing of Noriko. Such an occasion is a big event for a little lady from any land. I tried to capture some of the fuss and feathering of little Miss Noriko. There were 14 people in and out of the little cottage during the evening. Some had dinner, others drank sake by the bottle. We sat at two small tables, continuing his role as interpreter. Tara sat between Dana and me and across from our delightful hosts. Taro said, in Japan, the family comes first. In Japanese, you would be called Johnson Dana and Dana and Johnson Walter. Pointing across the table, Taro explained, So Yuki is their last name. We would say his name is Yuki Tanaka. He would like you two Swedes to think of him as a friend, so you may call him Yukazen and call me Turasen, an enduring expression. The food was delightful. Fresh raw salmon, yellowtail and sauce, soup, a pickled vegetable dish, rice and sake. As the evening progressed, the lovely Japanese lady and her daughter, Masako, arrived carrying a dessert called mochigashi. As near as I could tell, it was a pastry with beans and other ingredients. More sake and tea were served. I like how there's just no periods randomly. Every time I looked up, Masako, with her lovely skin and black hair and enormous penetrating dark eyes, would be looking at me. The effect was hypnotic. I soon found myself sitting alone with her under a candlelight lantern, where I did a drawing of her. Her quietness and beauty captured me as her silk kimono fell gracefully around her. Though very young, she had a startling effect upon me. Neighbors came and left. Masako and I were totally engrossed in each other. Yet, oh, there she is. Party day in Japan, charcoal drawing. Neither of us could speak a word of the other's language. Finally, I smiled at Masako and said, Thank you for sitting for me. We are finished. Though I knew the words themselves meant nothing, I started to sign Keane on the drawing, then quickly wrote, Johnson. She laughed for the first time as I handed her the drawing. As her mother reached for her hand, she turned facing me and bowed from her waist. Soon she was gone. The evening went far beyond any experience I had ever encountered. The farewell party was unforgettable. Several times during the evening, I found myself remembering the war and wondering how world leaders can rationalize. What the fuck, bro? Get in there and stay plugged. Thank you. Can rationalize international conflict with such wonderful human beings are involved. When such wonderful human beings are involved. Watching Noriko, Masako, and the others at our gathering, I prayed that they might grow up in a world free from the agonies of war. that their parents and grandparents had experienced. Several days later, Dana and I arrived in Hong Kong with nothing except the clothing on our back. At immigration, I called my friend Charlie Green. He was in Korea. I then made a collect call to a senator friend in Washington, D.C. He in turn talked with the chief inspector at the Hong Kong airport, who gave us clearance. I took Dana to a hotel and registered her as my wife, Dana Johnson, until I could come up with some money and a passport. Excusing myself, I went directly to Mei Ling's shop. The two Wong children from the camp were there, neatly dressed. Looking directly into the eyes of the young girl, I said, "You are Ting. Your name means beautiful and graceful." Giving her a light kiss on the cheek, I said, "You are what your name tells me. And Lone, you are my dragon friend." Lone laughed and said, "Mr. Keane, I'm not really a dragon. It's just my name." I asked where to find Mei Ling. They thought she was at home. A few of my things were still in a desk drawer in the store. I took my keys for the apartment, asking the children to tell Mei Ling if she came back that I was going to the apartment for a shower and a nap. I jumped into a taxi and gave him directions. Thinking she might just be home, I quietly opened the door and tiptoed into the bedroom. A Chinese man was asleep in our bed. I shouted, "Where's Mei Ling?" She came out of the bathroom carrying some wet towels. I shouted again, "Oh, go to hell." Throwing the keys at her, I ran out the door and down the street. I stopped at the first bar and got drunk. When I finally staggered back to Dana's hotel room, she gasped, "What has happened to you now?" I made no reply, so she undressed me and put me to bed. The next day, I went to the American consulate, who had received a call from my congressman friend in Washington, D.C. He approved a $5,000 check for me drawn on an American bank and contacted the Scandinavian consulate to issue Dana a passport. I bought Dana an airline ticket to Copenhagen and gave her $1,000. She did not want to take the money, but I insisted. I suggested that she enroll in college, giving her a kiss. I told her sincerely, "For whatever I am worth, thank you for saving my life. Let us keep in touch. You know that I hope to make my home in Paris with Colette and Renee." With that, we exchanged addresses, and she boarded the flight for Copenhagen. With little enthusiasm for anything, I booked myself on a flight for Tahiti. Tahiti, the lovely Polynesian stewardess with their artificial smiles only stirred my feelings of pain and jealousy. Until my return to Hong Kong after the accident, I had not fully realized the depth of my feelings for Mai Ling. Realistically, how could I expect her to be faithful to me when I am a married man? Would soon travel to Paris to find the only one, true love. Surely there was something of a double standard in my thinking. Now I had to face the emotional consequences of Mei Ling's double standard. Having checked into the hotel in Papeete, I gathered together the cables and letters that had been waiting for me. Upstairs, after a shower and a nap, I perused my mail. Unbelievable, the first thing I opened was a long cable from Mei Ling. It said, "Walter, my love, I'm glad you are alive. I cried for days when I heard the news of the sinking of the boat. The report said there were no survivors. The man in our bed was my brother. He came for a visit and was exhausted. I took him to our apartment and to take a shower and to get some sleep. I was cleaning up the bathroom when you came in and saw him sleeping, and there I was with his dirty bath towel in my hand. I tried every hotel in the airport but could not find you registered anywhere. No other man interests me. I love you. Please come back to me." It was simply signed Mei Ling. I stared at the cable. Is it possible he was really her brother? Perhaps she had truly believed I was dead. Was she not justified in trying to find happiness? A thousand tender memories of Mei Ling flooded my heart. I longed to return to her and take her in my arms, but again, like a driving madness, my work, the old restlessness to continue. Perhaps it was for the best. Mei Ling would rebuild her life, and it was time I continued with mine. The golden moments were gone forever, to be relived only in memory. A second cable arrived from my longtime California friend, John Monroe. With it came a letter advising me that he, my wife Barbara, or my daughter Susan knew nothing of my whereabouts since the Swedish ship had sailed from the Hong Kong to Tahiti 4 weeks before. In addition, John mentioned Colette was also looking for me. Immediately, I communicated with John, asking him to relay information about my safety and future plans to Barbara and to Colette. I resolved to finish my work on Tahiti within 2 months. Then I would go to California for a brief visit, and then on to my final destination of Paris, France. I reminded John I had paintings to paint, and I had made many personal sacrifices, given up a big piece of my life for my work. One can destroy his talent and himself by not using it, and losing love by using it. I love Tahiti for its wondrous color, reds, oranges, yellows, and greens of all shades. The vegetation and flowers of the untamed wilderness were breathtaking. In the backlands, the wild, silent jungle was interrupted only by the sound of its splashing brook. The shadows were never the same on any 2 days. Each morning I unpacked my art supplies and set my easel among the blue hills, laboring desperately until nightfall to capture the myriad of reflections in the foliage. It was a race against the sun. One day, while walking up the hill with my easel, canvas, and paint box, I came upon a young, beautiful Polynesian girl bathing nude in the nearby stream. She called out, "Are you an artist?" This sounds highly implausible. "Yes," I replied. "Would you like to have me model for you?" "Very much," I replied. We worked steadily for 8 days. Each night I gave her money for her hours of patient posing. At the close of the 8th day, she was astonished to see the nearly finished painting of herself as a child, clothed in variations of orange and red flowered fabric. She was like a young savage with an evident, unrestrained pursuit of pleasure. Obviously disappointed in the painting, she pouted, "If you wanted to paint a child, you should have used my younger brother or sister." The days quickly passed. Other girls passing by with bare feet, bare breasts, nearly nude. Some would pause and ask if I needed another model. In the weeks to follow, I filled several canvases with these lovely girls. During these days, I became aware of an intense pain in my back, right arm and shoulder, almost incapacitated. I forced myself to continue with my brush in hand, stooped over the canvas. On several occasions, I did not stop until it was so dark that I got lost on my way back to the cabin. I love Tahiti for its tropical, sensual ambience. After many nights alone in my bed following my painting day, and often the evening in the bistro, gazing at these lovely goddess like creatures, I was aroused and violently disturbed. I needed a woman in my bed. Then I recalled Gauguin, the great master who died of syphilis from girls such as these. I was afraid, knowing that I was allergic to penicillin. Often while the village slept, I tried to paint in my dimly lit cabin from my sketches. The colors would not come alive. Trying to capture nature from memory in my hot, unventilated, and poorly lit room was senseless. The heavy fumes from the paint and turpentine made it difficult to sleep, and my hot Tahitian bedroom finally came to an end. After 47 days of the wondrous colors and the sea of the tropical paradise, I decided that I needed to go home. One day I suddenly began packing my things, calling for reservations to San Francisco, then on to Paris. In Papeete, as we were taking off, I looked out over the enchanting land and thought, "Tahiti, your power and beauty have given great pleasure to my eye, my mind, and my creativity, if not my body." I cabled my wife Barbara and daughter Susan to pick me up at the airport. "We will have dinner at Ernie's," I signed off, much to tell. Love, Walter and Daddy. I had also cabled Colette in Paris, telling her that I would be home to her in 11 days, giving her the flight number, the date, and hour. "Colette, please meet me at Orly Airport." I will be happy to be home. A kiss for Renee. In 264 hours, we will be together. I am counting them already. Tell our friends the stray is on his way home. My love, Walter. Expecting that the reunion with Barbara would be strained, I nevertheless longed to see Susan. Rootless as I was, I still had a need for family and for the renewal of spirit that seemed to derive from my wife and daughter. See how long chapter 10 is? I don't think I'm going to delve into this. What's it? 8 pages? What time is it? It's almost 12 o'clock. It's not too late. Do I really want to read this? Let's do it. Chapter 10. Off to a better place. The San Francisco customs and immigration staff knew me well. They greeted and sped me through as soon as possible. Barbara and Susan looked wonderful and greeted me enthusiastically. I was genuinely glad to see them both. We three had a wonderful dinner at Ernie's in San Francisco. Back in our Berkeley home, I slept 14 hours only to be awakened by Susan jumping up and down on my bed and shouting, "Daddy, it's way past your wake-up time." I reached out my arms for her. We quietly held each other for several uninterrupted minutes. Soon, Sylvia brought me a tray with juice, coffee, and a carnation from the garden. She always knew just how to welcome me home. One evening, shortly after my arrival, Barbara and I tucked Susan into bed. As always, we said our prayers together and shared a goodnight kiss. Then Barbara and I adjourned to the living room by the fireside for a glass of wine. We had a lengthy, serious conversation, which was long overdue. She told me about her work at the university, in which she was more involved than ever. I told her of the paintings I had done of the children in Hong Kong, Bombay, Bangkok, and Tahiti. Opening a second bottle of wine, I recounted the boat incident, the rescue, and stories of the wonderful Tanaka family who had nursed me back to health. I told Barbara that I had made arrangements for a nice gift to be delivered to them, in appreciation for saving my life and for all the kindness shown to Dana and me. Then I broached the inevitable. Having booked the flight to France for 2 weeks from my arrival in San Francisco, I told Barbara about Colette. She had already suspected that my affections were elsewhere. "Walter," she said matter of factly, "you must know that our mutual friend Susan and I correspond. She mentioned having seen the two of you twice in La Tour d'Argent in Paris. You were most attentive." Neither did I deny my feelings for Colette, nor did I make excuses for my actions. I had been comfortable with our long-distance marriage because I knew that Barbara's first love was her work, just as my true love was my painting. She showed no emotion as we talked about Colette. I assumed that she too was satisfied with our unusual arrangement. During those 2 weeks in California, Barbara was at the university every day. Susan and I spent all our time together, painting in her room, lunching together, or playing in the garden. I was pleased to note that she was progressing very well with her painting and her music. On my 6th day at home, I took Barbara and Susan to San Francisco for an early dinner at Vanessi's and on to the ballet. Susan laughed a lot and seemed very happy. We were late and returning home. Barbara drove and Susan fell asleep on my lap with her arms wrapped around me. As we pulled into the long driveway, I asked Barbara to come around to my side to help me lift Susan out of the car. Just then, my sleeping doll began laughing and said, "Daddy, I was not asleep. I was so cozy in your arms that I did not want it during my short visit." Wonderful mother whom she also needed, but we three were not ever again to be a real family unit. I resolved to arrange for Susan to spend time in Paris with Colette, Renee, and me. I spoke to Barbara about the possibility of Susan spending Christmas vacation in France. She was non-committal, but she promised to consider the idea. A week later, I cabled Colette to meet me at Orly. On the day of my departure, Barbara was at school, so I said goodbye to Susan and to Sylvia and took a cab to the airport. My excitement about seeing Colette and Renee was mixed with a genuine sadness about leaving my daughter behind. I don't know why, buddy. The plane arrived in Paris 20 minutes early. I cleared customs and immigration quickly, but did not see Colette anywhere. Thinking she might have been delayed in traffic, I sat down and waited. After an hour, I had her paged with no results. I took a taxi to my studio in Montmartre, unloaded my things, and got back into the cab. Stopping on the way for roses and wine, I arrived at Colette's flat. As I paid the driver, I told him that this was the happiest day of my life. I was back in Paris at the door of my love. No one answered the door. I guess that Colette was out at the market. I spent more than an hour checking all the places she might be shopping. Neither the butcher nor the baker had seen her for days. Distraught and depressed, I returned to my studio and began to paint. Days passed. I did not bathe, shave, or go out for food, drink, or social activities. I had the illusion of participating in a common universal misery. I was afraid I was dying, and at the same time, I was afraid I was not. Once again, I checked the several places where Colette would be seen if she were in Paris. No one had news of her. I was devastated. One afternoon, I heard a loud knocking at my studio door. It was my artist friend Gonet with a bottle of whiskey in his hand. Glad for some sympathetic companionship, I helped him finish the whiskey and then joined him at St. Michael for dinner. During the next few weeks, Gonet and I spent considerable time together. We had never had a lot in common, but we did share a love for painting, beautiful women, and alcohol. I felt a new camaraderie with Gonet during those days when I thought that Colette was gone from my life. As I watched him, I realized what loneliness and desperation a man can feel when there is no loyal, loving woman in his life. Gonet and I had met when I first went to Paris to study. Initially, he exuded tremendous self confidence. After enough drinks, however, his inferiority complex became evident. He was a broken, humiliated man. He never spoke of his parents, except to say his father was an ill man and that his mother did day work in homes to get money. Whether we were in his studio or mine, he always wore the same paint splattered clothing, not even changing to go to a restaurant or a bar. Gonet was never presentable in public. Only on one occasion did I see him in acceptable clothes. He was on his way to see his art dealer, who had brought him an outfit so he'd look presentable at his art exhibitions. But Gonet was a very handsome man, big blue eyes, rosy skin, reddish hair, husky shoulders, and a perpetual smile. After we had been drinking for several hours one evening, he said, I often wish I were a little boy again with no cares or worries and with someone around to love me and care for me. Someone who cared if I lived or died. I've got a wife and two kids back in Amsterdam, and they don't give a damn for me. Only the money I send them. The women who model or sleep with me only do it for money. Tears splashed down on his clenched fists. On this and several other occasions, I pointed out to Gonet how our lives change when we choose painting over family life. The artist, the artist sacrifices the security and serenity of his home for the uncertainty and upheaval of a creative existence. I told him that I had tried to maintain some stability in my private life, but had found it impossible if I were to pursue my real goal, the painting of the lost children. Colette and Renee had represented my one hope of establishing a peaceful life in conjunction with my work. I said to him, real love is the capacity to endure any hardship for the beloved. The idea is the foundation of my relationship with Colette. Bullshit, replied Gonet. Constant change is the very essence of an artist's existence. Gonet lived his conviction. He knew so many beautiful women when he was not at the Riviera painting seascapes. He was in Paris painting nudes, usually group nudes. He had three exotic nude girls who were paid for modeling. They all loved Gonet. I soon grew weary of wild nights and parties with Gonet and friends. I decided to take a trip to Marbella, the only other place Colette and I had been together. Calling upon the concierge at Colette's old address in Paris, I left 50 francs with her to cable me if she found out any information at Colette's whereabouts. Once in Marbella, I returned to the same apartment that Colette and I had shared. My friend Ralph had stocked the flat with Chavaz Regal, scotch, good food, and red roses. I unpacked a few things and then went to the village for art supplies. By chance, I met a few old acquaintances at the local cafe. As we were drinking, I spotted my little model of a few months before. She was walking with her mother. I immediately engaged them to come to my apartment so that the child could model for me. For 5 days, I painted with little rest. The lovely Spanish girl was a pretty, patient subject. She and her mother spent long hours with me in my studio. At first, I was totally engrossed in my work. Slowly, however, thoughts and memories of Colette came creeping into my consciousness, making concentration almost impossible. I told the Spanish mother that I would have to rest for a few days and would find her and her daughter again when I needed them. I decided to go down to Chantal Beach, have lunch, lie in the sun for a couple of hours, take a swim, and have a few drinks. As I approached the water, Chantal saw me coming and ran along the beach to meet me. Walter, where have you been? It's been so long. A friend of yours made inquiries about you. All I could say was that you could only be with your love and your brush. Chantal poured me a Chavaz Regal scotch. I wonder how you pronounce that. I will look it up. What's it? Chavaz Regal pronunciation. Chivas Regal. Chivas Regal? All right. Chantel poured me a Chivas Regal scotch on the rocks and one for herself. She toasted. Welcome back, dear friend. Just then, a little girl came running up to me, shouting, Monsieur Keane, it is really you. Mama, Mama, it's our good friend. Hurry. Mama. We met halfway, wrapping our arms around each other. Neither would let go. Finally, Chantel spoke. That is the lady who's been inquiring about you. Now I remember her being with you once before. Colette's face and body were brown like a loaf of French bread, her hair bleached from the sun. Her lips were dry. Oh, Colette, I've looked everywhere for you. She replied, Why do you think I'm here in Marbella at Chantel's? We laughed, remembering that these were the exact instructions that I'd given her so many months before. By sunset, we were still there, drinking and talking. Colette said her flight back to Paris was scheduled for tomorrow morning. She was staying in a little hotel nearby. I said, Permit me, all that will be changed. Chantel called us a taxi. We collected Colette's and Renee's things and went to my apartment. The maid was just leaving from cleaning up. Cleaning up what? Oh, I like this place. Oh, Mama, look from the balcony down to the sea. It's so beautiful. I cooked a little dinner for the three of us. There was a couch for Renee to sleep on. Colette and I went to bed early, staying awake half the night, kissing and loving each other, looking in each other's eyes and discussing where we went wrong, questioning how our communication had broken down and how we nearly lost each other. Colette promised I've been behaving, saving all of my love for you. Oh, Walter, you were gone so long it was as though we had said our last goodbyes. If you had missed me half as much as I missed you, you would never have stayed away so long. I asked her where she got the money to come to Marbella. She replied, I still had 3 of the monthly expense envelopes you left with me, and I used it all to come here just in hopes of our finding each other. She said her rent would be due in 5 days. I'll telephone London in the morning, and the Barclay Bank will send a check in French francs. Mother is going to meet my flight. You can call her in the morning. No more questions, no more problems, just you, me, and Renee. This Christmas, maybe my little girl Susan will come to Paris and visit us. Exhausted, we fell asleep. When I woke up, Colette had breakfast on the table. Aha, you've been around here before. She responded by kissing me, saying, Yes, Walter, this is the lovely apartment we had for a couple of weeks when Renee was with my mother. All right, you are. Welcome home, Colette. We will stay here another 3 or 4 weeks, then go back to Paris together, I told her. I had work to do. She smiled and said, I'll be the detective and find you a model as I have done before. We engaged the Spanish lady to come every day to give Renee a Spanish lesson and to take her to the park and to lunch from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. When we return to Paris, I want to enroll Renee in ballet school, I told Colette. I don't know that I want her to be a ballerina, she said. Darling, she doesn't have to become a ballerina as an occupation, just to develop grace and freedom of movement. I love to paint ballerinas. Then, every week, all three of us will attend the ballet in Paris. All right, Walter, she acquiesced, smiling happily. I resolved to find time each day to go to Chantal Beach for sun, booze, and food. Hey, you're gonna go lay flat, buddy. Page don't want to lay flat. That's kind of smart not to. After that, each day was a new adventure with Colette. She would sunbathe in the nude while I was painting. It was an effort to keep my mind on the brush and the canvas with her only 20 feet away, and as anxious as I, twice we danced until 4 in the morning. On two occasions, we went sailing with a British friend over to South Africa and Gibraltar. Most of the time, however, we were a quiet family at home. Colette was a great chef and a good mother. I insisted that Renee write a little note to her grandmother daily and that she read aloud from a book for a few minutes. At dinner, we held hands while saying grace. Then each of us would talk extemporaneously for 3 minutes about something he or she had experienced during the day. Sometimes we acted out with our experiences. Often I sang and danced mine. I felt as one with Colette and Renee. The weeks passed quickly. Our last night in Marbella, we put Renee to bed after saying the Lord's Prayer in unison. Renee fell fast asleep. It was still early, so Colette and I walked out onto the balcony, viewing the sea and beach below. In unison, we said, "To the beach, to the beach." We walked for nearly an hour, hand in hand quietly. Colette stopped, put her arms around me, and on her tiptoes, looking into my eyes and kissing me softly, said, "You never asked me why I brought my raincoat." I looked at her and she spread it out on the sand, unbuttoning her dress, and soon she was laying down naked with her arms outstretched toward me. She whispered, "Now pretend we are at Chantal Beach. Shall we run naked to the ocean?" Oh, Colette, I love you. What a time we had. Sand in our hair, our knees, our feet, a bit of sand all over us, and the run back to the apartment and into the shower. Colette said I'd better pack our things tonight. My darling, come to bed, I urged. We'll have plenty of time tomorrow. I've arranged for the babysitter to come at 8 a.m. to help you. She sighed happily. You think of everything. Let's put the mattress on the deck and sleep under the stars tonight. You are my lady, as you wish. We were awakened by the first light and carried our mattress back to our bed. I checked on Renee, had a cold glass of water, and the next thing I recall, the alarm went off. I was in the shower when Colette came in. I thought to wash my back. Edward is calling from London, she announced excitedly. He wants to know if you will drive his car to Paris, and he will fly over and pick it up there. A towel wrapped around me, I hurried to the phone. Edward, what's up? Yes, we're leaving today. Hold the phone 1 moment. Colette was wiping me off from my shower. Darling, shall we drive or fly? Edward wants us to drive his car to Paris. A pause. Come on, darling, yes or no? She put her arms around me. Yes, it will be fun. Edward, I'll call you in a few days from Paris. Try to stay over a couple of days with us and enjoy Colette's cooking. Bring something, only a bottle of Chivas, not a case, just the bottle. Darling, I'll get the car and fill it with gas. Then let's be on our way soon. I'd like to stop for a couple of days in Madrid to see Jose Camon Aznar. He's writing a book on my life and work. You'll like him. He's one of the great men in this mad art world. In Madrid the next morning, I telephoned Jose Cameron Aznar, who was happy to hear from me and eager to lunch with Colette and me. The lunch went on for a couple of hours. Then a reporter and a photographer showed up and took pictures of us, ending with one of Dr. Aznar and me alone. I looked at my friend and asked, "What is all the fanfare for?" "I've arranged an exhibition in the Museum of Modern Art for you in the fall," he explained. Colette gave Dr. Asnar a kiss on the cheek. Thank you for Walter. Look at him. He's in a daze thinking about it. Let me read to you the introduction I've written to the biography, Asnar said. In the work of Walter Keane, the theme absorbs technique. These faces of children filled with thought, open to a melancholy horizon, already conscious of the sadness of the world, they regard us with a compelling gaze, and we know not whether it is of reproach or fear. Children of all races engulfed within the sum, I guess it's the same world of sadness and stunned as the world opening before them, which seems to forebode that all is not going to be happy. They are at the threshold of life and are ready from this initiation they perceive the horizon of misery and heartbreak that they will have to encounter. Enormous eyes, of which can be said they concentrate in their sparkle all the features of their faces. A favorite theme of Walter Keane is that of the stone stairs mounting to who knows what desolate heights, and which give such an impression of infinite loveliness. And on them, if it were the image of a completely unprotected humanity, a child seems to be the only companion of that moon and those stars also lonely and unprotected. And the whole thing carried out with a sure and firm technique which expresses through such children the most intense human emotion. Very few artists have been able to express in painting the innocence of children in such a dramatic manner. Each face has a soul, and in each of these souls there is the hope of happenings. There's the hope of happiness, and also at the end of their eyes, we notice a beginning of anguish. We may say that paintings of Walter Keane are a monument to unprotected children, and at the same time an accusation to man's selfishness. Jose Caman Aznar, Dean of the Faculty of Philosophy and Letters of the University of Madrid, Director of the Lazaro Galdino Museum. This man is a great artist, he told the press, and he is a happy man. He turned to Colette. Are you responsible for that? There was a twinkle in his eye. Colette smiled. I hope so. I hope so. The paintings I did in Marbella were in the trunk of the car. I asked Colette to have the doorman help her bring them in. They were photographed, and Dr. Asnar said, Walter, if you wish, you can leave these with me. I'll have them framed for the exhibition. Nodding to him, I asked Colette to telephone the hotel and tell the babysitter that we would be another hour, maybe two, but no longer. I wanted to show her the museum and to view the present exhibition. The only living artists who had shown in this museum were Picasso and Dali, and now Keane. The next day, I drove to Toledo to show Colette and Rene the El Greco Museum, which housed his permanent exhibition. Such emotion and power. El Greco's paintings will live forever. Reluctantly, we returned to Madrid, knowing that an early start was necessary. Paris, we are coming home, coming back where we belong, I exclaimed. Oh, Walter, I love Marbella. Colette sighed. I too. I felt complete and whole once more. It never occurred to me that I would ever lose Colette again, and under the most awful of circumstances. All right, let's look this guy up, and we'll see his book on Keane, if it's possible. Dr. Asnar, Jose Caman Asnar. All right, that's all, bruv. Jose Camar Asnar. Goodbye, bruv.